Let's accelerate through your calls, quick comments, quick questions, because I want to get to everybody, and I've still got 4 big stacks of news we've got to get to. Let's talk to Chris in Kentucky. Chris, you're on the air.
How you doing?
Good, sir. Welcome.
I just, this mosque issue, I'm very suspicious about it. There's something brewing that I think that the demonstrators that I heard on local talk, the ones that are saying no and the ones that want to say yes, and there's always this argument between the others. I think we're going to have something what we had in Seattle when they're going to send the anarchists in there, and then they're going to turn the police loose, and they're going to round them up and take them to that bus terminal like they did several years ago. Something's brewing. Something is really going to be brewing. I think this is a way to set up the police state.
Well, I tend to agree with you. What do you think the biggest lie of the New World Order has been?
The biggest lie of the New World Order? That those troops are coming home from Iran. I don't believe they are. I think then they're going to keep another 50,000 there because I think they're going to use them to get that war going with Iran. This is such a spin and a big lie. I'm so sick of this.
Chris, I hear you. Let me briefly comment on that because that's one of the issues I covered at the start of the broadcast. If you go back to Bush 3 months into the invasion in 2003, he stood on the deck of an aircraft carrier wearing a fighter pilot outfit, a flight suit, saying mission accomplished, combat operations are over. And the majority of troops have died since then. They have increased the troops in Afghanistan. They have increased the contractors in Iraq. And Army Times, Kate Brennan reports that they have changed the name. So they took out one rotation of troops, and they're now designating other combat brigades under a new name, but they'll still be in combat. So, yes, it's semantical deception. They're just playing word games. As the final convoy of the Army's 4th Stryker Brigade combat team, based at Fort Lewis, Washington, entered Kuwait early Thursday, a different Stryker Brigade remained in Iraq. Soldiers from the 2nd Stryker Brigade combat team of the 25th Infantry Division are deployed in Iraq as members of an Advise and Assist Brigade, the Army's designation for brigades selected to conduct security and force assistance. And then it just goes into the 50,000 troops in Iraq, the 67,000 in Afghanistan, and the hundreds of thousands of mercenaries, contractors, that they've actually been increasing. So that's another Orwellian deception being used there. The Pentagon says our troops will be there till 2020. They've built hardened structures, giant bases, and they're turning it over to a private army, similar to the privatization of police and security happening here. So it's a fully occupied nation. People will continue to die. It's a lie. Let's go now to Jesse in New York. Jesse, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex. How you doing?
Good, sir. Welcome.
I think that we've been conditioned that the government lies and that it's for our own good.
No, that's a big part of it, but it's not for our own good. We're going bankrupt. They told us NAFTA and GATT was going to be great, and Al Gore said on Larry King Live to, shut up, Ross Perot. This is a good deal. No, it's an insider deal. It doesn't help Mexico. It doesn't help us. It helps these globalists and destroys our standard of living. It consolidates wealth but destroys our industry.
Yeah, I seen the Expendables the other day. I don't know if you know what it's about.
No, it's some action movie that's got like 10 big stars in it.
Well, it's about, it's a CIA drug operation in another country that gets taken over by some member of the CIA, which could never really happen, but that's what happens.
Well, they're selling this idea that it's rogue corruption, it's rogue problems. Jesse, I appreciate your call. Let's talk to Brad in Idaho. Brad, you're on the air.
Thanks, I'm honored to talk to you. I think that God has blinded our eyes to the corruption.
Given us a great delusion.
Because we don't care as a people, generally. We don't care about truth and justice.
Yeah, no, we think 51 million aborted babies, that they're not humans. And so why shouldn't they pass death panels and start trying to euthanize old people like Europe? Why shouldn't they start eugenics in this country? Because if we'll say 50 million dead babies is no big deal, I mean, if we'll say it's liberal that 51% of blacks have been aborted in this country, and that it's racist to not want to kill black babies, and it's liberal to want to kill them, I mean, that's a lie. To say mercury is good for your children's brain, that's a lie. They just test these lies. They sell us and condition us and marinate us in lies until we don't know which end is up anymore. But I think the sleeping giant is awakening and finding its soul again. Go ahead.
And even in the Christian community, which I am one, Christians have put their end-time theology above truth and justice.
It's worse than that. It's worse than that. The Baptists, the Catholics, the Methodists. I mean, I've been to many churches, Methodist and Baptist, trying to find a church. And you walk in and they're, turn your guns in for the Lord. Open the borders, it's of the Lord. And listeners send me the newsletters from Catholic churches and others saying, turn your guns in, it's good. It's because the major national organizations are being paid off with stimulus money in the faith-based initiative. It's called the Clergy Response Teams. Just search that term. Mainstream news that 50,000 plus preachers have been secretly trained to brainwash their flocks to accept tyranny. But look, we have the First Amendment, not just for free speech in the press, but that government cannot be involved in religion in any way, because governments try to take over religion and use it for control like Hitler did, and now it's happened. These churches are demonic whorehouses. Go ahead.
And see, and the reason why the people that go to those churches believe the lies is because their end-time theology has them convinced that it's okay to bomb the Arabs. And so that's why God has blinded the eyes of the Christians, because they've put... In the book, Palestinians Caught Between Two Fires, written in 2002, a Palestinian pastor born and raised there, and he was a Christian pastor in the Gaza Strip. He said the problem with America is they're blinded by their end-time theology. And Abraham Lincoln said the same thing. The Civil War didn't have to happen, but the people, both South and North,
no, it's another great point.
By their injustice.
Brad, I hear you. No, it's the same thing. People in Germany didn't fight back because they thought it was the end of the world. They thought Hitler was the Antichrist. Same thing with Stalin. Same thing with Lenin. Same thing today. Oh, I don't have to get involved. So what if they want kids to wear RFID chips sewn into their clothes at public school? So what if they, want to do all this? So what if they're face scanning me and naked scanning me? It's the end of the world. I'm just going to give in to it. I'm just going to go along with it. It's not my job. God will handle it. Well, the Founding Fathers said it well. Justice depends on the people taking action. And duty is ours. Consequence belongs to God. I mean, that's like if you see a woman being raped in the middle of the street, this happens all the time. You hear about some woman being raped in an alley or beaten, or an old man being stabbed, and people for hours will walk by them. They don't want to get involved. It's not their responsibility. Well, then your neighbor doesn't care about you either. So nobody's going to stand up for you. And we create a hellish society. Okay. I want to come back and go to Revo 76, Ed, Joe, and a bunch of other callers. We can take millions. I want to hear from all of you. But I've got some other news I need to hit on with the flu. They're now going to push that again with the deadly vaccines. The oil spill, the mosque funder at Ground Zero, being the Fox News owner. You can't make this stuff up. It's all coming up. Okay, let's run through some news and some more of your calls. In the next segment, I'm going to break down in detail how Google and others are basically government front companies trying to take over and end the free internet as we know it. This is so important, not just to the web, but to free speech itself and the conduit that the American people and the people of the world are using to expose this global corruption. But here's some of the news. I mentioned this, but it's in AP, it's in Yahoo, and Raw Story's got a good boil down of it. Fox News co-owner funded Ground Zero mosque, Imam report shows. Now, I wonder if you're going to hear Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly and good old Glenn Beck talk about that tomorrow. I don't think so. The second largest shareholder in News Corp, and my info is he's the #1 shareholder, the parent company of Fox News, has donated hundreds of thousands of dollars, including $300,000 to this, and it goes on, specifically to the Muslim community. According to the report from Yahoo's John Cook, Saudi Prince Al-Waleed bin Tali, who owns 7% of News Corps has directly funded the projects to the tune of $300,000, the very imam building the mosque. Cook reports that Prince Al-Oeid's personal charity, the Kingdom Foundation, has donated $305,000. That Fox News' second largest shareholder after Rupert Murdoch has financial links to the Ground Zero Mosque will be seen as ironic by critics of the news network. I just thought I'd throw that out there, regardless of which side of this issue you're on. Look, I can see why people are mad about it, but it is a property rights issue and a free speech religion issue, First Amendment, so we'll see what happens. Here's ABC News. The Reverend Franklin Graham, son of Billy Graham, says President Obama was born a Muslim. Well, that's actually true. His dad was a Muslim. He took the name Barry Soetoro, went to a Muslim school for many years in Indonesia, gave up his U.S. citizenship. And polls show that a majority of Americans, upwards of 70%, question where he was really born, and over 25% believe he is a Muslim. So the system is definitely upset about that. My whole point on this is, let's give the 9/11 rescue workers, the paramedics, the police, the firemen, the military people, the health care they need from the asbestos poisoning in their lungs. That's still being blocked almost 9 years later. You know, they told you, oh, the air's good to breathe, just like Obama says, core exit's good for you. There's no health problems in the Gulf. We've played those video clips. You know, the EPA says there's no problem. You know, that's the issue. Not obsessing over this mosque 2 blocks away. But if you want to obsess over it, why is one of the biggest owners of News Corps involved in it? In other news dealing with the oil spill, and this has all been posted in the last few weeks up at InfoWars and Prison Planet, but it's hard for me to get my mind around it. It's hard for me to psychologically deal with it that the St. Petersburg Times, the Associated Press, countless newspapers are interviewing. I saw one news article, they interviewed 10 scientists, including heads of universities, oceanographers, people who'd been out in the Gulf and videotaped with their own submarine submersibles, their own robots, that there's fissures 20 miles away, 1 mile, 2 miles, 8 miles. It goes all the way out 20-plus miles. They're now saying 22 miles to be technical. And it busted up under the ocean floor. It's still leaking. And they don't stop there. NOAA runs around. That's the big, federal National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, if you want the acronym's full meaning. They're the folks that, issue the big national and international weather reports. It turns out they went around threatening universities and their federal funding. That's why it's dangerous to have most of the funding of universities being federal, because they can control what they say and do, saying, shut up. That's the quote in the St. Petersburg Times. Shut up. Shut up. 70% of the oil is gone, and there is no leak. There are no fissures. And now they've been forced to back off. I've got a whole stack of news, Zero Hedge, Reuters, Huffington Post. I've just got a whole bunch. NOAA claims scientists reviewed controversial report. The scientists say otherwise. Senior NOAA scientist admits he lied. The Gulf oil spill is gone. Puts administration spin, disclosure, credibility in question. It just goes on and on. BP accused of hiding oil leak information by owner of rig involved in explosion. That's out of the Examiner. Most oil BP spill remains. Al Jazeera. I mean, look, they're just telling you there's no problem down there. Oh, the food's safe to eat. Oh, there's no health problems. Oh. And before I hit a few final calls and then get into this key internet takeover news, and it's the same for talk radio. They're trying to take talk radio over. You've got the diversities are at the FCC and others, and Cash Sunstein, the regulations are saying they're going to set up community boards that will speak for the community, that will decide what can be on the radio and not. And community means Soviet and Russian. I mean, that's what this is. The government says, oh, we have a non-governmental organization we appointed, and they say you're bad, so you can't say this. But vaccination advice includes adults, flu shots for everyone. This is out of the Charleston Post. I saw the same thing in the Statesman. It says everyone needs it, and the H1N1 vaccine will be included in the regular seasonal flu shot. They really want you to take the H1N1. They admit it was very weak compared to regular flu. We had a record low seasonal flu and H1N1 last year. I had Wolfgang Wodarg, the head medical doctor of the EU Commission, 47-member group, conclusively found fraud, the British Medical Journal.